Good morning, YouTube. It is Thursday. Holy shit. Good start to the episode. It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024, 9:33 a.m. Central Standard Time. You know, a bit of a warm day, all things considered, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Not a warm day in the hearts of Dallas Mavericks fans, unfortunately, after they get absolutely embarrassed and demoralized last night on national television against their biggest rivals, the Phoenix Suns. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can check these out live every morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. A little late today, but 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on playback.tv/slightly biased. If you're watching this on playback.tv/slightly biased, you can tune in to these on YouTube. You can tune into these on YouTube. So, wow, I'm just looking at the ESPN thing because I'm about to pull up the box score from last night for the Mavericks game. The top headline on ESPN is frustrated Doncic requests fans ejection from loss. Is that really what we're talking about? Is that really like the number one story? God, fucking embarrassment. All right. Speaking of embarrassment, Mavericks get destroyed by the Suns, and it is just about as bad as you could hope for. No Kyrie Irving, but the Mavericks still no real excuse to look as poor as they did a night ago. A massive third quarter from the Phoenix Suns, 43-20. The Mavericks were leading by 16 at one point early in this game. There was a massive turnaround, like a 40-point turnaround in the span of about a quarter and a half. In the span of about a quarter and a half, there was a 40-point turnaround. That is absurd. Absolutely absurd. And just to top down embarrassment for the Mavericks, I talked about it on my stream last night. I talked about it on Locked On last night. Don't want to get like too deep into it. You know, like what else could I possibly fucking say? Just an embarrassment from a roster construction point of view that I'm not even blaming Nico Harrison for this. The Mavericks have been paying for just horrible roster decisions over the years, and they're trying to make it better, but it's still a process. They're trying to make it better, but it's still a process. The coaching staff, I mean, this team just looks woefully unprepared far too often. Players, terrible defensively, horrible effort, refusing to close out, questionable defensive schemes, soft doubles where guys just hovering around the block. You know, if there's like an empty side ISO, a guy's just hovering around the block and not actually doubling. I hate that shit. Soft traps on screens. You know, there's just I'm not like blaming Luka. It sucks that I even have to fucking preface that because this fan base is so goddamn rabid that I can't just straight up criticize Luka without saying like, hey guys, I'm not blaming him, so please don't threaten to kill me. Okay. But like there was one possession where Luka comes to trap Devin Booker off a ball screen. And, like, Luka's 10 feet off. And Devin Booker just makes the easiest pass in the world to the middle of the floor. Okay. And I think what's even more concerning for me, an offense that has been below league average since, like, the first 4 games of the season. Now, that's what's majorly concerning. That I can, if you want to excuse that, if you want to use the injury excuse for that, okay, I'll listen. I'll listen to like the injury thing being an excuse for that, but it still ain't good enough. It ain't a good enough excuse. This team is not good enough to be a league average or below offense. And it's been a little eye-opening to me because I thought this roster, all season long, I said I thought this roster was close, so they just need a couple more pieces. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know where this team is at. Again, a lot of injuries, and some of it was weird. Like Dante Exum was coming back from an injury last night. He's been really important for the Mavericks, but you could kind of tell that he was not in any type of rhythm whatsoever. Um, and then you just have a bunch of guys who are just so one-dimensional, and that's just the league doesn't work like that anymore. You know, there was once like a team-building philosophy where it was like just put guys who could do specific roles around your great players. But that's not how it works anymore. You get players who are cool doing everything on the basketball court, and the Mavericks don't have that. Again, Kyrie out definitely changed some things for the Mavericks, but that doesn't excuse a 40-point turnaround. It just doesn't. And Kyrie missed another game. I mean, he's missed half the games this season. He can't stay on the floor, and it's hurt the team. Luka's terrible attitude and constant frustrations with the refs hurts the team, and it trickles down. The role guys lack confidence. And if I'm just being frank, lack ability. If I'm just being brutally honest. And when teams decide to turn it on against the Mavericks, good teams, great teams, like this Suns team when they're healthy, and the Mavericks aren't hitting threes, they have zero fucking chance of winning. Zero. Once Luka gets mad, the whole team looks to quit. It's true. I mean, I'm sorry. It is. It is. So let's read this right here. Tim Cato, subscribe to The Athletic. I can't believe this is the leading story, man. Who gives a fuck? Who cares about Luka kicking a fan out? Like, who cares, man? What a stupid thing. Dallas Mavericks have unraveled in what became had unraveled what became a 132-109 defeat on Wednesday to the Phoenix Suns. Wants up 16 points in the second quarter. The team found itself down 25 when that timeout was called. Get on the treadmill. I mean, pretty funny. Yes, we saw Luka get mad at Tim McMahon. Those are the words, or a close approximation of them, that those of us on Media Row and the fans behind us all agreed upon, that prompted Doncic to point at the fan. Okay, is there some more meat and potatoes here in this article? The story of this game is simpler. Dallas made 10 of its first 14 shots from three, only to convert just one of its next 16. Jesus Christ. What? Yeah, Nurkic was getting absolutely torched. Because Kyrie Irving missed a game with a right thumb strain, Dallas didn't have another quality option or elite secondary creator to fall back on. Dallas defense responded better when it can set up in the half court, and the team's increased tempo is better used when that defense forces missed shots, because the Suns began this game making just 2 of their 11 shots from distance. Yep. Then just one game after kids said the Mavericks lost focus due to officiating in Monday's loss to the Celtics, they seemed to do it again. After Phoenix closed the second quarter on a 13-4 run with its center-less lineup. How good is that lineup? I feel like when they have like KD at the 5, that they're disgusting. That's small ball right there, guys. Small ball where it's like, yeah, we're small, but we still have a lot of size everywhere. Small ball is not running 4 fucking guards out there. Big difference. In a pool report, crew chief David Guthrie, Doncic had complained multiple times and was asked to stop prior to that. He did not stop and continued his complaining. And again, as he was leaving the floor at halftime, he yelled and complained at the officials again. I'm just like tired of this. I have to be so honest with you. I'm so tired of the official thing. I mean, I've been tired of it. I've been tired of it, but it's just like reaching a point where it's really hard now. This time the game unraveled. Dallas didn't build enough of a lead when it had an over 3-point advantage to withstand Phoenix's inevitable comeback. Phoenix's strategy shift clamped down on an offensive advantage Dallas was exploiting. Irving was missed. The officiating and the subsequent back foot circumstances affected every other aspect of what made Dallas successful this season. This story began with Doncic's frustration for a reason. This is not the most frustrated Doncic has ever been, not even close. That was last season. One where the team spiraled out of the postseason while he struggled with his conditioning. It might have been the least fun that Doncic ever had playing basketball, a sport he adores. It was the least fun I ever had watching basketball, a sport I adore. So, Doncic also doesn't seem to be taking his frustration with him off the court. After the game, two Slovenian journalists from one of his country's biggest newspapers told me he sat down with them for a one-on-one interview earlier this week, once unwilling to even hold press conferences when he returned home to his home country. To the frustration of media members who live there, Doncic happily talked about everything the reporters asked him. Late last year, Doncic became a father, something he told these reporters has completely changed his perspective on life.
This is something Phoenix talked about coming in here, attacking him more on the defensive end. They didn't do that in the loss Christmas Day.
Offensive foul. Bradley Beal draws the charge as Derek Jones low.
In this that followed, Doncic's teammates did not do enough to support the brilliance he showed in the first half. It's who they are, even as the front office regenerated this roster more meaningfully than in any prior season. It still has not put enough starter level talent next to Doncic to avoid this. I'm like, yeah, that's what I agree. As last season's catastrophe wore on, it became very clear the Mavericks understand Doncic's superstardom. The team knows the manner in which he has replaced Dirk Nowitzki as the franchise's talisman is not guaranteed to continue with the same patience as Nowitzki afforded. And in those same moments, it was clear that Doncic understands his status within the league too. Because of this, the Mavericks must understand where Doncic's frustrations come from, and they do. The team's as urgent as ever need to improve its roster is not lost within the front office. It's a trend here. Kidd said of the team's distracted focus when the officiating skews against them. The referees are the referees, and they're going to make bad calls. It's the nature of the league. We can't get calls every time down. We've got to be better. People complaining about him complaining is annoying as fuck too. I say this with a lot of love in my heart. I watch a lot of basketball. There is nobody who does it like Luka. I'm just being truthful. I've said this before, even like when things weren't bad. There is nobody who's worse than Luka when it comes to complaining. LeBron is his worst days is half as bad as Luka. LeBron is nowhere near as bad as Luka when it comes to complaining. I'm sorry. There's no way you think that. I know you don't think that. I'm saying there's no way people think that. His focus has improved. His maturity has improved. He's 24 years old, Kidd said. We're asking him to do a lot every night, giving him grace to be that Picasso that we think he is. There's gonna be nights he doesn't have enough paint and he doesn't have enough brush. Yeah, beautifully said. So what, are the Mavericks going to make moves, you guys think? Does this mean that the Mavericks are going to make a panic trade? That's my biggest fucking fear, to be honest with you. Luka is a one-on-one player in the league. Him complaining gets more attention when the team is bad, but ultimately the problem is the team is bad. I mean, the complaining is bad. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It is bad. It needs to be better. The roster is the biggest problem. Yeah. Of course. I mean, the Luka complaining is not the biggest problem with this team. It is the roster, for sure. I agree. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's kid. The issue is whatever roster they do build will always take on his personality. Yeah, he's got to be better. This is what I'm saying. There's so many problems with this team at this juncture. There's not a single Band-Aid fix. The roster might be a problem, but there's no assets or picks to rebuild it. It's pretty depressing, man. It really is. Again, they're paying for the sins of previous front offices in a major way. But here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. You have Kyrie, you have Luka, you have Derek Lively. Again, a trio that it is pretty successful when they're on the court together. You find two more solid starters, which is hard to do, but two more solid starters. That's a very formidable starting five. You just got to get there. You just got to get there. Which is why I keep wondering why they have 3 first-round picks for, because there's not a single player that could trade for is fixing everything. Well, you don't have to trade 3 picks for one player. You could trade for 2 players. If they were really that desperate, they wouldn't have drafted 2 rookies. They clearly signaled in the offseason they think this is going to be a process. OKC is a championship 5, has a championship 5 and a shit ton of assets. I mean, yeah, they had one of the craziest starts to a rebuild ever. They jump-started the rebuild by trading Russell Westbrook, who for some reason still had a lot spam risk, who for some reason had still a lot of value. They got first-round picks out of that trade. I still have no clue how. And then the best player in the trade. Hilarious trade in retrospect. Got a massive haul. The Thunder hit a home run, but they got lucky in a lot of ways because Paul George, the haul that he got traded for was absurd. Absolutely absurd. Even without the power of hindsight, like even without knowing what Shea became, at the time it was an insane haul. Because the Kawhi Leonard situation. Like the Thunder had all of the leverage in the world. Like it was a perfect storm for the Thunder. And then they got to trade Chris Paul to the Suns. They had all the cap space, so they were able to keep accumulating assets by just bringing on bad contracts. Something like a really smart team maneuvering for them. And yes, they've hit a lot of home runs in the draft. They've had some swings and misses too. That's what's scary. But they've hit a lot of home runs in the draft, and Shea has blossomed into an MVP level player. And yes, now they have a championship level 5. I don't know if I'd go that far actually. I'm very much worried about Giddey, Isaiah Joe, that grouping in like a playoff series who's going to be on the floor for you a bunch when shit gets real. But guess what? If it fails this postseason and they know what their weakness is, they have a million fucking pigs to go out and fix it. So, yeah. Is it a bad roster? No, the Mavericks don't have a bad roster. They don't have a great roster. Year 6 with Luka, you would like to think they would have a great roster by this point. They have a decent to good roster in a league that's just gotten a lot better. Like, this team is better than they were a season ago. The problem is the league is also much better. Like, the West was a fucking disaster last year. So, yeah, depressing stuff. I mean, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do between now and the trade deadline. The only thing saving them from being Atlanta Hawks is they have Luka Doncic instead of Trey. And they're in Dallas and called the Mavericks. All right. Let's get into trade deadline stuff. Any trade news? Any trade news? So I do want to say this primer right here is not necessarily Mavericks centered. It's not even a primer. I threw this together in like 30 seconds before the stream started. I'm just going by team. I'm looking into things, and I just have teams that I'm 100% sure are making trades and players that I'm 100% sure are getting traded. I saw some Zach LaVine rumblings today, actually. The Bill Simmons on his podcast said that the Mavericks should get Zach LaVine and just say, fuck defense. No, thank you. That's just what, like, no thanks. That would not be smart at all. It's the last thing we need. We don't need another guy making $40 million that will be untradeable. Sound like Detroit was wanting him. The Pistons have been in discussions on a Zach LaVine trade. Chicago is locked in on a package that would include Bojan Bogdanovic and one of their core young players. I'm not entirely sure why they would do that. I don't understand it. Teams that we will finish below: OKC, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Clips, Suns, Kings, Pels. I mean, here's the crazy thing is I can only confidently say the Mavericks will finish below the top 5 teams you just mentioned. Kings and Pels still up in the air, believe it or not. Why do I think the Mavs might tear this up? No chance. No chance. You got to remember that they do have new owners. There's no way new owners are going to want to come in months after buying the team are like, yeah, just trade away, guys. Absolutely no way. Do you hear the cat? Do you hear him? Is that what you're asking? Ben, what do you think about this? This fucking sucks, bro. It does. It does. He like wants to come up here and then doesn't want to come up here. Okay, let's get into the trade deadline primer. Just bit my feet. Cool. Trade deadline primer. Not really a primer. More so just, all right, I'm looking at the lay of the land. These are teams I'm 100% sure are making trades. Like 100% sure. If something must have gone catastrophically wrong between now and the trade deadline if these teams don't do something. Okay? Atlanta Hawks, need I explain more? DeJounte Murray's getting traded. It's just a matter of where. Brooklyn Nets, embarrassing team. Players are getting traded from that squad. I've built a trade. I have two trades. I have two trades already made up in my brain. I don't want to spoil them, but I love them. And they involve the Brooklyn Nets in both of them. Actually, no, that's not true. Sorry. They involve the Lakers in both of them, Brooklyn Nets in one of them. The Charlotte Hornets, I think they're making a trade for sure. Detroit Pistons, sounds like they're making a trade for sure. Lots of these rebuilding and selling teams. Warriors have to make a trade. What that trade is, that's the interesting question. Lakers are obviously making a move. Sixers, I think, have to make a trade because they're close, and they might not ever be closer than where they are now. And you can't have another playoff disaster and another playoff meltdown. And their team might be good enough, but also they do have like a decent amount of assets. So why not just go in for it? Why not go for it? I love Bojan for them. I don't know if that's talked about, but I absolutely love Bojan for the Sixers. Sacramento Kings, they have to make a trade too, I think. They were way too quiet in the offseason, and I think it bit them in the ass. I do agree. Denny is better than people realize, I think, and a lot less limited as a player. And speaking of Denny, the Washington Wizards, I think, are making a trade. Those are the only teams that I can say with utmost confidence are making a trade. Every other team, like the Mavericks, I'm fairly certain will make a trade, but I do think there's a world where nothing pops up and they don't do anything. Some other like buyers, like the Celtics, they don't have assets really. The Cavs, they definitely have some holes, but they can't trade a first. They have no first to trade. They can swap 2024 and 2030. They have 7 seconds. They do have open roster spots, but again, it's tough when you don't have a lot to offer. I'm trying to look through some of these other teams. Like the Heat probably do something else again, but I don't know what that would be. Timberwolves need to make a trade, but what is it? They have no first offer. They can only offer 3 swaps, and they only have 4 seconds. So what's the trade? Thunder are the most interesting team at the trade deadline, in my opinion. The Thunder are the most interesting team at the trade deadline because if they go for it and get like 2 real solid role guys who are like a Dorian Finney-Smith, that's interesting. They enter another category, I think. The Suns, I don't know if this like rumored interest in Miles Bridges has a lot of weight to it or not. I've seen conflicting stuff. Blazers are probably making a trade. We'll see. And then players I'm 100% convinced are getting traded. Well, I said I didn't have the Blazers, but I do have Malcolm Brogdon here. DeJounte is getting traded 100%. I already have a DeJounte trade made for my video, and I love it. It actually makes a lot of sense. Bojan, it's time. The Pistons, it's time, dude. Trade fucking Bojan. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Trade Bojan. Get serious. Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, those guys are getting traded. It makes sense for the Nets. Hawks offered Collins for years. Are you sure they'll trade Murray? Yes. There's a dysfunction level there that's hard to ignore. Miles Bridges, I'm fairly certain is getting traded. Although 100% might be pushing it, but it sounds as if he is. That will be interesting to see. Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, contract fodder. These guys are getting traded. Evan Fournier, if the Knicks make a trade, he's getting traded. Malcolm Brogdon makes just way too much sense for the Trailblazers to trade him. And Harrison Barnes. If the Kings make a trade, which I think they will, his ass is getting traded. If Bridges ended up here, that would make the season so much worse, man. The Mavericks make a trade for Bridges, they need to win the fucking championship, okay? If you're going to go morally bankrupt that hard, Curry hates Denny from coming. I really doubt that that's a thing. I have to be honest with you. I really doubt it. I could be wrong, but I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So that leaves a bunch of other players. The Wizards, I'm not sure what they do, man, because Tyus Jones is probably getting traded. I actually would add Tyus Jones to this list right here. Tyus Jones is getting traded for sure. Forgot about him, honestly. Tyus Jones for sure getting traded. Kuzma, I'm not. It's possible, but I doubt it. It is possible though. I wonder if a team like the Kings feels desperate enough to like really ramp up an offer for Kuzma or someone like that. Denny Avdia is possible. I mean, I'm very interested. Gafford is possible, it sounds like. But Tyus Jones is the one that I think is most certainly getting traded. Why would the Kings be desperate for Kuzma but not Dallas? I mean, Dallas could be desperate for Kuzma too. Uh-oh. Watch this, guys. And he just knocked it under the fridge. And he just knocked it under the fridge. I'm going to have to go get it. Spurs, Doug McDermott, I think, is 100% getting traded. We could actually add him to this list. Expiring, makes a ton of sense to trade him. Dougie McBuckets. Dougie McBuckets. My dream trade for the Mavericks this trade deadline would be somehow getting Denny Avdia for less than a first-round pick. Don't think it's possible, really. Magic are interesting. They have a weird center log jam with centers that might have some value across the league. So I wonder if there's a trade there. You're just knocking it deeper under. Yeah, you are. I know. No, that's your fault. No, it is. I told you to stop doing that. He doesn't like coming over here whenever I'm recording. Pelicans are an interesting team to watch. Grizzlies are an interesting team. Xavier Tillman's an expiring contract. Does he get moved or do they keep him? Oh, he's going brazy right now. This will all be interesting. I'm really hoping in the coming days to have this video done and ready, because I do think trades will happen sooner this year. I don't think I have the luxury of waiting until a week before the deadline like I did last year. Again, I've already cooked up a couple trades. Who let him cook? Who let him cook? All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. A little bit shorter side today, but my cat's going crazy, and I don't have much to say. Just have music on it. All right. An organizational loss that should be, for any shameful team, any shameful organization, almost a line in the sand moment. Almost a line in the sand moment, right? You're going to lose games. Maybe you don't rattle off a winning streak. This team is who they are. They're a jump shooting team. When their shots aren't falling, they're probably going to lose. And that's not going to change between now and the end of the season unless some crazy shit goes down at the trade deadline, which I doubt. Okay? But this should be, we should look back at this game 3 months from now and say, man, that something flipped in that game. They didn't come out and look that pathetic again. Because we're stringing these together now. We're stringing these fucking shit disasters together now. And it's becoming an uncomfortable trend. Organizationally, this is a failure, okay? It's a failure of years of team building, all accumulating to games like these. Not much you can do about that. Right now, it's going to have to be a process. I've liked what they've done. Okay, I really do. I've liked what they've done. It's on the coaching staff. At a certain point, you can't keep coming out in post-game press and say, we got to be better, our energy has to be better. Do something. Yell at somebody. Hey, kid, your seat is hot, okay? Your seat is hot. You shouldn't be scared and holding back because you're scared you're going to piss off the players and lose your job. Man, if you don't do something and get these guys to fucking focus and play the game of basketball, on a nightly basis, you're fired anyways. Okay? If you don't get these guys locked in and focused on the game, you're done. You're going to be gone. Here's Luka has to be better. Okay? His stats were great again, but did he get a 30-point triple-double again? I mean, what was his stat line? Well, that's how I felt. Guess what? Luka never complained in Euro because he had a squad. Wait, what? Bro, you can't trick me. I have watched. You can't trick me, bro. I've watched the Luka international games. Okay, pretty much every single one of them. What was it? Was it after the Olympics? Was it after the Olympics whenever he said that FIBA had it out against him? He probably met with Real Madrid. Well, he was a teenage boy. Like, you can't blame Luka's complaining on kid. He's been complaining every year he's been in the league. All right, anyways, guys, playback.tv/slightly biased every morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time.